My name is Lena Marshall. I'm 32 years old, and for most of my life, I've been invisible to the people who were supposed to love me the most. You see, being the eldest daughter in the Marshall family came with responsibilities, not affection. From the outside, we looked like a polished, picture-perfect family in Denver, Colorado. My mother, Caroline, was all charm and pearls when the cameras were on, but behind closed doors, she had a sharp tongue and a colder heart. My younger sister, Ava, was the golden child. Blonde, bold, and always surrounded by attention. Caroline worshipped her like some porcelain doll, while I, quiet, responsible, always accommodating, was treated more like hired help. I used to wonder what I'd done wrong. Why I didn't get the same soft looks or gentle words. Eventually, I stopped wondering. It hurt less. Even when I got my first job, my own apartment, even when I helped pay the bills while Ava found herself, for years, I was never enough. Ava always came first. And I was always in the background, quietly holding the family together. But everything changed the night of Ava's rehearsal dinner. It was supposed to be the biggest celebration of her life. She was marrying Nathan Keller, a successful tech entrepreneur. Handsome, humble, honestly, too kind for someone like her. The event was being held at the Monarch Pavilion, one of the most exclusive venues in the city. It screamed luxury, crystal chandeliers, black marble floors, servers, and tuxedos. I showed up on time, dressed in a simple navy gown, ready to smile and support, like always. Except this time, I wasn't even given a seat at a proper table. They put me in the hallway. Literally. A folding chair near the coat check, as if I were some distant cousin who showed up uninvited. I remember standing there, trying to laugh it off, pretending it didn't sting. Pretending it didn't confirm what I'd always known. I didn't belong, not even in my own family. But the real blow came when Caroline approached me, her voice sharp but sweet enough to sting. "You'll be covering some of the wedding costs, Lena," she said casually, like she was asking me to pass the salt. 12,000. It's only fair. You're her sister. I blinked. Excuse me. You heard me. I expect a check by the end of the week. I should have stayed silent. I usually did, but something inside me cracked. No. Her smile didn't falter, but her eyes narrowed. Excuse me. I'm not paying for a wedding I had no say in. You didn't even give me a seat at the table, Caroline. She stepped closer, her perfume thick and cloying. You selfish little. A crowd was beginning to turn toward us. I could feel eyes watching. But I didn't care. Not anymore. I'm done pretending I'm part of this family, I said. Then it happened. Her hand darted out. She grabbed a crystal centerpiece from a nearby table, a decorative, jagged thing the size of a melon, and slammed it into the side of my head. The pain was instant, white-hot. I collapsed onto the black marble, my hand rushing to the warm liquid pooling near my ear. Blood. Gasps. Screams. Phones raised. Everything blurred, but I remember one thing clearly. Ava didn't even look surprised. She just sipped her champagne. The next thing I knew, I was in an ambulance, sirens screaming into the night, the cold oxygen mask pressing against my face. Caroline was arrested before dessert was even served. And just like that, the perfect Marshall image shattered, glass and blood on the ballroom floor. I spent the night in the emergency room with 8 stitches in my scalp and a dull ache that ran down to my bones. The doctor said I was lucky she didn't hit my temple. The cops came in to take my statement around 3 a.m., their faces tight with disbelief. A crystal centerpiece? One of them asked, scribbling notes. Sharp edges, I replied. Heavy. He nodded like he'd seen worse, but hadn't expected this from a woman like Caroline Marshall, socialite, charity board member, mother of the year. The hospital discharged me just before sunrise. I didn't go home. I couldn't. I booked a room at a small hotel outside the city and sat by the window with a bag of ice pressed to my head, watching the skyline blur behind a layer of rain. By noon, the video was everywhere. Someone had filmed the entire thing. Caroline's face twisted in fury, the brutal strike, me collapsing. The scream of someone in the background. A glass shattering on the floor. Then chaos. I watched it once. That was enough. By the end of the day, Caroline's arrest was trending on local social media. News outlets picked it up. Denver heiress assaults daughter with crystal object at wedding rehearsal. Caroline's mugshot was plastered everywhere, makeup smeared, eyes wild. And Ava? Not a single text. Not a call. Not even a lazy apology. Just silence. But the biggest shock came 2 days later. Nathan called me. I didn't recognize the number. When I picked up, his voice was calm, careful. Lena, it's Nathan. I know this is strange, but I need to talk to you. In person. I hesitated. Why? It's about Ava. I met him at a small coffee shop downtown, tucked away in a quiet corner far from the noise. When I arrived, he looked like he hadn't slept in days, creased shirt, dark circles under his eyes. He didn't waste time. She's been lying to me, he said, sliding his phone across the table. There were screenshots. Messages between Ava and Caroline. Plans. Conversations where they mocked Nathan behind his back. Once we're married, I'll have access to everything. He's smart, but he's got a weak spot for me. After a year, I'll convince him to sign over partial shares to the Keller Fund. Mom says it'll be easy if I push the family legacy angle. My stomach twisted. Why are you showing me this? Because you were the only one honest that night, he said. You said no. Nathan had already canceled the wedding. He made a public statement later that afternoon. There won't be a ceremony. Some truths came to light that can't be ignored. I wish Ava well, but I won't be manipulated. Ava's world crumbled fast after that. Bridesmaids dropped out. Her designer dress store posted a refund receipt online with a snide caption about non-refundable deposits. She tried to post a vague Instagram caption about betrayal, but the comments section tore her apart. And, still, nothing from her to me. Not a single word. Maybe she knew there was nothing left to say. The DA called me the next morning. Caroline was being charged with felony assault. My statement had already been submitted. The video sealed it. You want to move forward with this? The prosecutor asked. Press charges. I didn't hesitate. Yes, I said. All the way. This wasn't just about stitches or public humiliation. This was about a lifetime of being silenced. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Not just in temperature, but in the way people sat stiffly, eyes averted, like they didn't want to be part of something so ugly. Caroline sat across from me at the defense table, dressed in muted gray instead of her usual designer pastels. Her face was powdered, her lips thin, her eyes empty. She didn't look at me. Not once. I guess it was easier to pretend I wasn't there. She'd been doing that my whole life anyway. The trial didn't last long. The evidence was damning. The video alone was enough. Add in the witnesses, my hospital records, and a decade's worth of buried resentment finally finding oxygen, and the case unfolded fast. I testified on the third day. The walk to the stand felt longer than it should have. I could feel the weight of every eye in the room pressing against my back. When I sat down, the prosecutor asked, "Can you tell us what happened that night?" I took a breath. And then I spoke. Not just about the rehearsal dinner, but about everything. The years of being ignored. The cruel comments. The way Ava could do no wrong, and how I was always the backup plan, the burden, the shadow. I didn't cry. Not once. I spoke evenly, carefully, like I'd rehearsed it in the mirror 100 times, which, honestly, I had. By the time I stepped down, even the courtroom reporters looked shaken. Caroline never looked at me. The judge handed down the sentence 5 days later, 5 years in state prison. Caroline didn't flinch. She stood, nodded to her attorney, and was led away in cuffs. I watched her go, half expecting her to glance back. She didn't. That should have been the end. But it wasn't. Because Ava showed up at my apartment 2 weeks later. She looked thinner, tired, wearing sunglasses even though it was cloudy. She didn't ask to come in. She just stood there in the hallway of my building, arms crossed, voice low. "I suppose you're happy now." I stared at her. "Happy? She's in prison. Nathan left me. The press won't stop calling. What more do you want?" I laughed, and it sounded like something breaking loose inside me. "You think this is about revenge? You ruined everything, Lena." "No, Ava," I said, stepping closer, my voice steady. "You and Mom ruined everything." I just stopped pretending. She didn't respond. She turned and left, heels clicking against the tile like gunshots. That was the last time I saw her. 3 months passed. The media noise died down. My stitches healed. My name stopped trending online. But something deeper began to shift, something I hadn't expected. People started seeing me. Not just acquaintances or former coworkers who reached out awkwardly with half-hearted sympathy. Real people. Friends I hadn't realized were paying attention. A woman I barely knew from my apartment complex brought me soup one night. A former college roommate sent flowers with a note that read, "I always knew you were the strong one." And then, Nathan. He texted me on a quiet Saturday evening. "Hey, I know this is out of the blue, but I'd like to see you, if that's okay." I stared at the screen for a long time before typing back. "Okay." We met at a small garden cafe, the Willow Room, a place tucked behind ivy-covered gates, the kind of quiet sanctuary people didn't stumble into by accident. He looked different. Softer. Lighter. "I thought you'd hate me," I said honestly, stirring my coffee. "For what?" "For being part of the chaos." Nathan shook his head slowly. "You weren't the chaos, Lena. You were the only real thing in it." We talked for hours. Not just about the scandal, or Ava, or Caroline, but about life. Books. Work. Regrets. Dreams. I hadn't realized how much I'd been holding back. Or how easy it was to breathe with someone who wasn't trying to dim my light. It started with one dinner. Then another. Then weekend hikes, late-night phone calls, morning walks through the city. By the time fall arrived, we were inseparable. He proposed quietly, under a golden-leaved tree in Washington Park. No photographers. No grand stage. Just us and the quiet weight of everything we'd both survived. "I don't want a fairy tale," I told him that night. "I just want something real." "You are the real thing," he said. "And I'm never letting you go." We were married in a small courthouse ceremony 2 months later. No gowns. No spotlights. Just a handful of people who loved us, who saw us. Caroline didn't send a card. Ava didn't show up. And, for the first time in my life, I didn't care. Underscore 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 underscore. Some nights I still think about that crystal centerpiece. The flash of pain. The blood. The look on Ava's face. But mostly, I think about the silence that followed. Because it wasn't just absence. It was clarity. Freedom. I used to believe family was about loyalty. About duty. About blood. But now I know better. Family is about who shows up when the world walks out. And love? Real love is the kind that stays.